One of the common concerns that many people seem to have is the education system here in Eretz Yisroel. Will your kids integrate? Will they learn Hebrew? Should you move with older kids? These are just a few of the most common questions that we constantly get asked. So to make your Aliyah just a bit easier, I sat down with two of some of the most knowledgeable and well-informed people in the field of school and education for new Ola families. Now, although the topic of conversation in this video is based mostly on boys' education and schools, the majority of the information provided would apply similarly to girls as well. So that's it for today's introduction. I hope you guys enjoy. Can you please give us a short introduction?
Hi, my name is Rabbi Danny Myers. Made Aliyah 23 years ago to Ramat Beit Shemesh Aleph.
My name is Levi Friedman, and I was Zocha almost 17 years ago to start Talmud Torah Darchei Noam here in Ramat Beit Shemesh.
The great zechut to be the Rav of Beit Knesset Menachem Or, also the Rav Beit Sefer of Netzach Yisrael, a Talmud Torah out here in Ramat Beit Shemesh, and also the principal of Magen Avot, Talmud Torah in Ramat Beit Shemesh as well.
My wife and I felt when we came to Eretz Yisroel that we needed a cheder that was very warm, very caring, where midos and derech eretz are paramount, where our sons would be nurtured, and we would have the best of both worlds, both limudei kodesh on the highest level and limudei secular studies on a very high level. And so we set out with this goal in mind, and we had tremendous siyata d'shmaya.
Baruch Hashem, a lot of great blessings that we've had so far here in Eretz Yisroel in our 23 years.
Do you recommend that families try to move in the beginning of the school year?
Anytime you switch a child from school to school, wherever you go, it's easiest to start at the beginning of the year. So that used to be, in general, our recommendation. But now we see that our families, since Corona for sure, they're making Aliyah mid-year, and it has to do with job placement and when they find a house and when they sell their house and family considerations. There are a lot of things going on. So all things being equal, try as best as you can to make Aliyah at the beginning of the school year. That's for sure the recommendation, but it's very commonplace to find now families that are making Aliyah mid-year. Just like it's difficult or challenging for a child to move from New York to Florida mid-school year, but if it's done, it happens and you get through it. Same thing with Israel.
Highly recommended that the students come and start the year off together. So I highly recommend to organize with the schools, to plan to come at the beginning of the school year. Sometimes there is an option to come towards the end, where some schools would be all right in June, July, towards maybe even a kaitana time where it's more playing and less studying, for the kids to just adapt and meet the other children in the classroom. But normally the best idea is to simply start the new school year together.
What type of language help do you offer?
So first of all, it makes a big deal how old your child is. If your child makes Aliyah before first grade, so that's when language acquisition before the age of 6 is very quick. We see by Sukkot, they understand what's happening in the Gan, and by Hanukkah, they're able to answer questions proficiently in Hebrew.
Each school is different in how they go about it. Some schools there's free Ulpan that's totally covered for a year or even 2. And sometimes for 5, 6, 7 years, there could be certain programs that can help out with the Hebrew. And that has to be, each school has to be looked into, what their plans are and how much one has to pay, if anything.
Between 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, he's going to need Ulpan sessions. We offer it here in the school. We have 4 full-time Ulpan teachers who are going to pull your child out for these private Ulpan sessions. It works, it's amazing, but it costs aside from the tuition. Tuition in the school is a little less than $3,000 for the year. I'm sure it's probably what you're paying in America. No, it's considerably less. But the Ulpan sessions here are private. There is a small subsidy that comes from the Misrad chinuch for Olim that helps cover some of the Ulpan sessions, but it's not nearly enough. So therefore, you have to subsidize private Ulpan sessions here in the school, and it usually takes about a year of Ulpan for the child to become proficient in Hebrew.
Regarding buddy systems, also different schools are very sophisticated and have very developed systems where the new families are embraced, and there's get-togethers, there's tiyulim for the new olim. So there's a range of activities. It really depends on all the different schools that one goes to, and one has to find out. But there's Ulpan everywhere, and as I said, a range of activities depending on the specific school.
It takes a good few months for the child to become a student again, for the Ulpan to catch up with the Rebbe, and for him to feel proficient again in his academic classes. does it, he does the jump, he makes the leap, and there is success, but it takes a good number of months for that to happen.
How long does it take for kids to integrate?
Socially, it fits like a glove. We have 95% of the boys in this school are coming from English-speaking homes. Those are kids that their parents are from America, from Canada, from England, South Africa, etc. So socially, it works great because the kids are able to speak English or Hebrew to each other. So the same acclimation that any child has when he switches to school. If he's moving from New York to Florida, there will be some social acclimation that needs to happen for any child who switches from any school. So that's what happens here as well.
Different schools have percentages of how many Israelis and how many Anglos, and there's a range in the different schools. There's 4 or 5 schools that many Anglo yeshivish people come to. You have Tachinoam, you have Magen Avot, Netzach, Torahs Moshe, Beis Eliyahu, each one with their own flavor. Each one is a beautiful Talmud Torah, each with their own flavor. And since all of these schools have a high percentage of English speaking, Olim, so socially it's a very nice landing where they feel comfortable right away.
Like in any situation, there could be some few days for the kids to get used to each other, but in general it happens very quick and very fast.
But the social acclimation in all of the schools, in all 5 of these schools, since there's so many English-speaking families, you have the English, you have the culture that you're used to, and also it provides a very soft landing.
First of all, because they speak a common language known as basketball, or soccer, or football. Baseball, there's a lot of sports going on during every recess. The kids are playing with each other and having a great time. And for the kids who are not into sports, there's other stuff going on as well. So the kids have a great time. Socially, it works really well. And it's kind of like a really smooth landing because of the fact that 95% of the children also speak English.
And depending on the school, some schools have more Hebrew, where I'm at in Magen Avot, it's a percentage of the class could be 50-50 Hebrew and English, so then they might move along quicker with the Hebrew. Other schools may have less, or in that specific class may have less Hebrew speakers, so it might take more time.
The language integration, again, depends on the age that they're coming, but as soon as the Ulpan catches up with what's happening in the classroom, the children become academically viable again and feel confident in the classroom.
It's a very subjective question. Magen Avot a few months ago, a 2nd grader came from France with hardly any Hebrew, and he's speaking fluently now. You can have others that come and 5 years later still have a challenge. Some people are just able to learn the language quick. Europeans seem to have a knack for that. Anglos, it all depends. People say, oh yeah, you make Aliyah from America. By Hanukkah of the first year, you're going to be speaking fluently. It's not really true when you come from Ramat Beit Shemesh. There's so many blessings, so many brachot from Ramat Beit Shemesh. It's a soft landing for so many, but you're talking English so much outside of class, and when you're home in the neighbors, so the Hebrew may not be as quick as if you go to some Israeli community up north or something. You have total exposure, and you're involved in the Hebrew day and night, so then it would be true that by Hanukkah you would have it.
It does take a few good months. If they come before 1st grade, it's very quick. By Hanukkah, they're jabbering in Hebrew. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, we usually see right around January, Tu B'Shvat time, where they become proficient enough to feel part of the class again. And if it's going to be 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, we usually see right around Purim or Pesach time, where the Ulpan is able to catch up and they're strong enough to become confident to speak up in class and ask questions and answer questions.
But since Ramat Beit Shemesh has such a mix, so it depends. It's hard to give any time frame, but it's a nice landing in Ramat Beit Shemesh. And if you want to call it a cost of Ramat Beit Shemesh, the Hebrew may not come as quickly, so it's true. But I think it's very much worth the price.
Do you teach secular subjects? And what does the curriculum look like?
So regarding the secular studies, so Baruch Hashem, all the Talmud Torahs out here excel in Kodesh, and clearly that is the Ikar in every one of the Talmud Torahs here in the Hadarim. Just like in the States, Baruch Hashem, we come from Rockaway, Tag, Dachei Torah, where clearly that was the Ikar. The question is, what about the secular studies? So in the Anglo yeshivish type of places, like I mentioned, Tachinoam, Torahs Moshe, and Netzach, Magen Avot, so there, from those 4 schools, everyone has enough of a background that they can get into either Yeshiva Katana, full-time learning for the high school years, or in Yeshiva Tichonit. The most famous ones are Marav and Moshe Matityahu, or Mesivta, and there's a whole bunch of 3 others that are out here also that started over the years. Mesivta was the first Yeshiva high school in Beit Shemesh, and the kids are prepared, 8th grade, to get into these schools. The proof is in the pudding, that from the 8th grade they graduate, and they go to these different schools, and they get in, and they're top students, Baruch Hashem, in all of these schools.
How does it measure up against the American counterparts? Well, certainly in Kodesh, any Israeli cheder is going to far surpass its American counterpart, just because the kids speak Hebrew, so we have to spend less time on Taich and more time covering ground. In terms of the amount of Chumash the kids know, by 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade, they know the entire Chumash very, very well. Thousands of Mishnayos Baal Peh by 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. And the Gemara level is a very high level because of all the Mishnayos they know. They're able to do a lot of Gemara. 5th grade, Elam Metzias. Our 5th graders just took a test on the entire Elam Metzias closed book. Shachar V'Tarya. Now they're doing Hakaines. 6th grade, they're doing Hamafkid. They finished Hamafkid. They took a test on the entire Hamafkid. Also closed book, Shachar V'Tarya. So Baruch Hashem, they're doing a great job. And that's really commonplace here in Eretz Yisrael, to see that the Chadarim are really conquering Prakim, conquering Masechtas, and really loving learning while it's happening.
So Baruch Hashem, the education, secular education is there. All these schools in different levels, and each one excels in their own special way. In Netzach, one of the Moors is in charge of these kind of activities. She took the whole school around the world this year, where every day you'd walk in, you'd be going to another country and learning about the Jewish communities in that country. They had a whole album that she made up. And one day you learn about the Italy and the Jews in Italy and the Jews in Morocco. So that was just an unbelievable program. Then you go ahead and you have Magen Avoda Tarucha, where the kids go ahead in each class at a certain point in the year, have a project where they're building all together and formulating something. It might be about Eretz Yisroel, it might be about some geographical topic, and they can be working together to create something there. The academic program, Dachinoma, was for many years, a very high-level program of Rabbi Greenberg, who was in charge of the secular program there. The level of Hebrew that he's demanding. Each school, Baruch Hashem, is serious about their secular studies, and Baruch Hashem prepares them well to get in for them, prepare for the next chapter in their lives.
So when we came to Eretz Yisrael, we were looking for a cheder that offered very strong Kodesh, which is obviously the most important and is the priority, but also a cheder that offers strong secular subject, math, science, English, Hebrew. 25 years ago, when we came to Eretz Yisrael, it did not exist. Now, with the proliferation of American Olim, Canadian Olim, British Olim, there are a lot of options here in Ramat Beit Shemesh, especially for Chadorim that do offer strong secular subjects. Yes, we have incredibly strong secular subjects, both math, science, we have a robotics program, English, Hebrew, a lot of Hebrew, geography, history, Kemoshe Tzarich, we're not embarrassed about it, and we have a very strong secular studies program. People call us the academic cheder, and rightfully so.
What age kids are considered too old to make Aliyah with?
The question you asked is a very good one, but the chinuch is the reason to make Aliyah. The upside of educating your children here in Eretz Yisrael is infinite. The amount of Torah they'll know, ruchnius, the fact that they'll be raised in a much more tahor atmosphere, I think, and with an emphasis on limud Torah and avodas Hashem here in Eretz Yisrael is vast. It's the reason to make Aliyah. That's the chinuch, is what they get here, is what they're going to come out with, is the upside, is why we're here. Now, it could be that for a child making Aliyah to 8th grade is difficult, because think about this. He's coming into 8th grade. It takes him a good 10 months to just pick up Hebrew, which means he kind of missed 8th grade. And therefore, it's going to kind of be hard to get him into a 9th grade, into a high school, because he really wasn't in 8th grade. He was basically just doing Ulpan for a lot of the time. So 8th grade is challenging. I would always recommend, if you can, to try to come earlier, and if your child is borderline in terms of the age, to hold him back a year and let him get that extra year. Instead of going to 8th grade, let him come to 7th grade. Give that extra chance before he rushes off to an Israeli high school, to give him an extra year, have him do 7th and 8th grade, 7th grade again or 8th grade again, give him that extra chance. He'll be stronger, he'll be more mature.
The age to move and a red line when not to take a child, it's a very, very good question. There's so many variables involved. I personally don't see a specific age that's a red line. To me, the most important thing is it has to be a very, very solid family. No matter what age the children are moving at, it's got to be a solid family. Financially, things are set. There's a plan. There's good shalom bias, good parenting going on. Because if that's not happening anywhere that people are, even the States, it could be a problem. But especially to go ahead and add to a challenging family situation, financially, emotionally, shalom bias, and to add to that the stress of Aliyah. And as much as I'm crazy about Eretz Yisroel, it could be a stress. So that's dangerous no matter what age the children are.
The older he comes, the more challenging it is. We took 2 years ago 5 7th graders. They're doing amazing. There was some time, the first few months of the years, we took them time to get settled and organized and learn that Hebrew, but they became amazing students and shining stars. So, what age is too late? I have no idea. But in general, if your child is hungry to learn and a happy child, he'll continue that, as Hashem, happiness and hunger to learn over here. By the way, if your child is having difficulty in school in America, unfortunately, Eretz Yisroel is not the pill that will help him solve all the issues. If he's having issues in America, he'll probably also have issues here. Shouldn't blame it on Israel. We'll try our best. With Siyata D'Shmaya, he'll be successful, but it could be that he'll experience the same challenges over here as well.
Even with good shalom bias and financially everything is good. Yes, as the children get older, uprooting them from the situation where they used to have the cheva ready, that could be very, very delicate, and it's case by case, must really be thought through properly. Families should sit with their Rav or whoever it may be and advice and talk it over to make sure that they're anchored, the children, that they're solid, stable, and they could go ahead and adjust for such an upheaval. And the older child is, it certainly is more of an upheaval. So the family has to be very, very careful. And of course, the advice is anyone that can, the earlier, the better.
What are the school costs and schedules?
The tuition here is less than $3,000 for the year. But again, if your child needs Ulpan sessions, that's an extra cost, $30 a session or whatever it is. I'm sure it's less than what it costs in America for private tutoring, but it is an additional cost over the course of the first year. And there's also tutoring if your child needs to be tutored in Gemara or Mishnayos or math or reading, whatever it is. Again, those costs are extra. Also, the Chadarim here go until Hey Av or even Tisha B'Av. That means there's a much shorter summer vacation, so be prepared for that. They're in school much, much longer. And some of the days are longer as well.
Regarding the tuition for the schools, there's a range, but certainly it's a lot less than Chutz. It could be 500, 600, 700 shekel a month, depending on the specific school. Most schools, they go by the yeshiva calendar. They're going to start Rosh Chodesh Elul and go to Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet Av. And it's going to be a shorter break for most of the elementary schools out here. It takes a lot of getting used to. Sunday through Friday, it's not Sunday off. It's an Israeli schedule, but you'll find nowhere in the Shulchan Aruch that talks about giving off Sunday. Nowhere in the Shulchan Aruch talks about giving off in July and August, but it's an adjustment. This is certainly the way the Masorah has it, is having more learning go on, but it definitely is an adjustment. The new schedule, it definitely is cheaper, the tuition, but of course the earning is less here as well. And as I said, a person has to definitely come here with a lot of amunah, bitachon, but in my opinion, also have to have proper financial plans and just to go ahead and rely that everything's going to be fine. Oh, the tuition is cheaper here. It's all going to be it should be worked out properly with proper financial planning, because maybe tuition is cheaper, but there's other costs that are the same, if not more than the States. So it has to be really thought through properly.
How do the schools deal with technology, such as internet and smartphones?
A lot of families come here and they're adamant, as most families are, that the children don't have any exposure to internet at home. And we hope that they can maintain that when they come to Eretz Yisroel, but realize that pretty much every family has internet in the house, and internet is a tool that everyone needs for work and for banking and for shopping on Amazon, etc., etc. But the families who come here are strong in maintaining the fact that the internet in their home is obviously filtered, but only used for work and for banking and not for entertaining their children.
So regarding dealing with technology, that certainly is a challenge worldwide in chinuch in our generation. And every school is going to have their own approach. You're going to have certain families, the more you go to the yeshivish Israel Haredi world, there is going to be less exposure in general. There's always exceptions, but in general that's the case. In the more Anglo yeshivish schools, just like there's an openness to secular education, there's an openness to going to yeshiva high school, there is more openness to technology, and therefore the school, the administration, and the teachers, they really have to have a pulse. We don't want the kids to have free access to the internet. I want it to be limited, and we have to work a partnership with the parents to go together on that path.
Every once in a while, you'll have a family that forgets or a family that listen. There's a lot of kids in the house, and it's Friday afternoon, and everyone's getting ready, and the kids need to be occupied, so I'll put them in front of a video or something at some point. And that's a challenge of our generation, and we hope that the parents continue to monitor that and stay strong in their commitment to having their children not be exposed to secular influences. And we're not the type of school that says, oh, chas v'shalom, nobody has internet, nobody has a smartphone, ma pitom. We realize that parents do have internet in the house. It's filtered. It's used for work. It's used for banking. It's used for shopping. It's not used for entertainment. Obviously, the parents do have smartphones, but they're using it very wisely and very cautiously. The kids do not have phones. If the kid needs to go somewhere and takes a not smartphone somewhere, not to school, obviously that would be within reason, but it's not the type of families that the kids have smartphones, and the parents are very, very strong about that.
Brian Miller, the principal at Netzach, worked together with them very closely. We had a major chinuch night the other night, and we're already talking about that for the next chinuch night next year sometime. It's probably going to be dedicated to this topic, to really work together with the parents to limit the technology, limit the exposure, and really have a proper educational plan to help our generation not be sucked in, because it's a dangerous, dangerous challenge out there. Everyone acknowledges it, and we have to work together to try to limit it as much as possible.
Are there really a lot of kids that go off the derech in Eretz Yisroel?
So kids going off the derech is a real problem in every Jewish frum community in the world. We don't think that Eretz Yisroel or Mapit Shemesh, now, 25 years later into this experiment, is any different than any other frum community. Every frum community that I know about, that you know about, we have at-risk children who are having difficulty wherever you go.
Regarding kids going off the derech, so I'm not an expert in the area. There are people that work specifically in this area, and the kids that have dropped out. So I cannot speak from an expert perspective. However, being in chinuch here 23 years in Ramat Beit Shemesh, being involved, Dachinon for many years, Magen Avot, and Netzach, and seeing the kids go through the system, a percentage that sometimes don't make it, just like in Chutz La'aretz, yes, that tragically is the case.
There are particular risks that come along with living in Eretz Yisroel, but there's risks in any community. So what I would tell people is this: there are kids that have difficulty and have challenges in any from community, and that's wherever you go. You won't be pater from it in Ramat Beit Shemesh, and you're not pater from it in Lakewood either.
Is it sometimes people talk about machla, crisis, more here than abroad? As I said, without being expert and knowing specific numbers and statistics, I see the majority of the kids from all of these schools doing nicely in high school, going to post-high school programs, learning in yeshivas, going some percentage by end of the army, mayim yeshiva gedola, and going for jobs. That's the majority that I see. And yes, tragically, everywhere around the world, there is a problem. The kids going off the derech. As far as I know, I don't know if it's the biggest percentage here than anywhere else.
How do Ola kids integrate into the Israel system?
Okay, so that's two questions. First of all, where do they go for 9th grade? Very, very good. So in the Israeli cheder world in general, there's only one choice, and that's to go to learn full-time in 9th grade. And if your son is ready to learn full-time at the age of 14 in 9th grade, wow, you've won the prize. The upside, the infiniteness of having your son learn full-time already in 9th grade is amazing. That's obviously the dream come true. We see that a lot of boys, they love to learn, and they want to learn, but to learn all day at the age of 14, not for every child. So we do see that among the American chevra, we see a lot of the boys are going to yeshiva katana high schools, where they learn most of the day, but 2 hours a day. They take their heads out of the Gemara for a few minutes, and they do math, science, English, Hebrew, computers, and they get what's called a bagrut, an Israeli high school diploma. So we have a lot of our boys who go learn full-time in yeshiva katana, and we have a lot of our boys also go to yeshiva katana high school. That's with learning most of the day and also getting a bagrut at the same time.
So regarding the high school and post-high school situation of our holy olim that come here, so many majority, I would say, choose yeshiva high school, where they're going to go to one of the 4 wonderful yeshiva high schools that exist here in Beit Shemesh. You have Chaya Olam, Mesifta, Per HaTorah, and Netivei HaTorah, each one with their own beautiful niche. And then you have Marava, that's the flagship yeshiva high school, started about 40 years ago, Rabbi Bari Chait. And then you have a whole bunch of others around the country as well, Nahora, Nadai, Chidvas HaTorah, and Yerushalayim, all over the place, Baruch Hashem. And the majority of the graduates from these 4 schools go to high schools, and the percentage, 5, 10, 15, 20%, depending on the year, will go to Yeshiva Katana, it's full-time learning. After the Yeshiva high school experience, many will go into the Israeli Haredi yeshivas, whether it's Hebron or Wolfson, or other Yerushalayim yeshivas, but a percentage more now than in the past actually going to American yeshiva programs. Torahs Moshe is a very popular program, and others as well. Some say, wait, what's going on? You're here for 15, 20 years and 18 years, and that's where you end up back in an American program? That doesn't sound like a very good klita, an acclamation to Eretz Yisroel. While others say they're learning Torah, they love the warmth of this American or that American yeshiva. Not that there's no warmth in the Israeli yeshivas, chas v'shalom, but they feel a certain connection to the American yeshiva, and they're learning Torah. So what's the problem? So they'll have different opinions on that one, and many will go from Mesifta and other yeshivas out here, and even from Marav, although Marav, a much bigger percentage are going to be going to the Israeli yeshiva places. But to me, each family has to think that one through. I personally, someone who's loving learning Torah and is in a makom Torah that he's excited to be at, it's a great success.
After they go to the Yeshiva Katana or the Yeshiva Katana High School, they go to the regular Israeli Yeshiva Gedolas. We have boys in Hebron and in Wolfson and Itri and Or Yisrael and Mora Talmud and Beis Matis and Slobodka, the regular Israeli Yeshiva Gedolas. We also have boys who chose to go to the American Yeshiva Gedolas and are in Tomo and Americas and Base, TC, so that they're, for whatever reason, they decided to be more amongst the American Chevra and going to the regular American Yeshiva Gedolas, and then afterwards, of course, everyone ends up in the mirror.
Are Israeli schools equipped to deal with learning disabilities?
You might have 5 or 6 children, so you shouldn't make Aliyah because of one child. Whatever challenges he'll have there, he'll also have here. We are not as resourced as the American schools. We don't have a resource room which comes along with everything, or a school therapist, school psychologist, school social worker. We don't have all that. So if you're coming with a child that's having challenges and difficulties, come solution-oriented in hand. Offer to help, to pay for his therapist, to pay for the school psychologist, to pay for the school social worker. If you're bringing all of that, then you can have solution in hand, and then you'll be able to have the same success, hopefully, that he had in America, or have here as well. If you're going to come into Eretz Yisroel with a challenging child and demand, how come you're not giving my child this service or that service? We don't have all that. We're a school that's getting minimally subsidized, and the tuition is less than $3,000 a year. So we're not going to have all those services that you're used to. If you're coming in with a solution in hand, offering to help, then all the schools will be happy to have a child who's challenging, as long as you're willing to help out with the solution.
So regarding children who have challenges, academic challenge, behavioral challenges, so each school is trying their best. Some have more services, more resource room services than others, and that has to be investigated and looked into. But I find a family where there's a partnership and the family's on board, and they're not sticking their heads into the sand and saying, no, my child's going to be fine. You have a say, everything's going to be all right. And they're ready to hear when a teacher, a principal, a resource room teacher say, hey, let's sit down. We really need some help over here. We need to work together. Maybe even ivchun, maybe a psychodidacty, and a proper analysis so we could really figure out how to proceed. When you have a family that's ready to do that and work together with the school, so some schools will have some more services than others, but as long as we have a family on board, and they're going to partner with the school, so just like in abroad, in the Chutz La'aretz, they're going to work together with the school to help out. So Yetz Hashem here as well.
How do the Israeli kids interact with the Olim?
Regarding the welcome that the Olim receive when they come, so I feel that everyone is accepted with open arms. A child who has social issues, so whatever social issues he would have had in the States and dealing with relationships and get along with his peers, or those challenges are going to exist here as well. There's no magic bullet that's going to just go ahead and solve social issues. It has to be worked through in a proper way. But in terms of reception, there's no idea like, oh, he comes from abroad and is a foreign person. Not at all. Baruch Hashem, everyone is very, very welcoming here.
Any school has the same social challenges, the same thing here as well. There's no language difficulty because all the kids here in the school, 95% of them speak English. So socially, the kid will feel great knowing that he can speak English to all his friends. But just like any situation, when a child moves into a new school, any social challenge he'll have moving to a school anywhere else, they'll have here as well.
What is the difference between Anglo schools and Israeli schools?
So regarding the difference between the typical yeshiva Haredi cheder, as it's called, versus an Anglo yeshivish Talmud Torah, as it's called, is actually an important one. The typical Haredi yeshivish elementary school cheder, there's really only one address after 8th grade, and that's yeshiva ketana full-time learning. So it's not only that in 8th grade that's where they're going to go, the preparation is different as well. So the learning is going to be very, very intense all the year, especially 7th, 8th grade, and the secular studies is not going to be the same. They might do some basic Hebrew and math. As the years go on, 7th, 8th grade, it might be less stressed because they're not going to need it to get into high school, because they're not going to be doing any secular studies in high school, as opposed to the other places, the Talmud Torahs, well, they need, in order to get into these high schools, to have basic math and Hebrew and maybe even English. So it's going to be a different type of a secular studies program and a different destination where you'll have a percentage going to Yeshiva Ketana from the Talmud Torahs, but the majority are usually going to go to Yeshiva High School, and therefore it's going to be a different preparation and a different destination.
The Anglo schools are aimed towards accommodating Olim. Our school has a lot of communication, a lot of parent involvement. We expect, we welcome parents to, if they're having a challenge or they're having some sort of question, we want to hear from them. We want to have their involvement. We want to know that they're going to be working with their child every night on their math homework, on their Mishnayos Chazara, on their Chumash Chazara. We want to know that the mothers are involved and the fathers are involved. We communicate with the parents very often, both in English and in Hebrew. And we also welcome communication both in English and in Hebrew. And because of that, it makes us different from the average Israeli school in that we welcome communication, we welcome parent involvement, and we even expect it sometimes.
Are there any other common misconceptions regarding the chinuch system?
Regarding concerns or misconceptions or accurate concerns that people may have when they come here, so many people over the years have told me that I really don't fit in here. In Chutz La'aretz I fit in. I'm Anglo, yeshivish, and I don't fit in over here. And the fact is, you very much fit in over here. Maybe 30 years ago, that could be a legitimate taina. If I'm not mistaken, 40, 50 years ago, people, the Anglo Haredi moved to Beit Vagan. And then 40 years ago, Har Nof in the 80s. So there, if I'm not mistaken, many of the Anglo yeshivas fully went into the Haredi yeshivish world. That's what was available. And over here, we sort of developed in an organic way an Anglo yeshivish kind of model where you can be in the yeshivish world, identify with the Haredi world, but still have secular studies on a level. It's acceptable and totally fine to go to yeshiva high school. And depending on which elementary school, even Medina Yisrael could be considered a bracha. The school may not be openly celebrating Yom Ha'atzmaut, it may not have flags going on there. The tefillah is going to be the same as the rest of the year, but there's a certain positivity in some of the schools. And so when people say, I just don't fit in, Ramat B'Shem is just not true. We have a very beautiful Anglo yeshivish community, which has really charted a very special course over the last 25 years.
So a lot of people say, I can never move to Eretz Yisroel because of the chinuch. I think the reason to move to Eretz Yisroel is the chinuch. The upside of being mechanech your children in Eretz Yisroel is vast, is infinite. It's worth it to make Aliyah just for the chinuch your children are going to get here. If you do it right, that would probably mean doing it a little bit early. That would also mean coming in solution-oriented, making sure your son has the ulpan that he needs. That means being available to your children to work with them at night, to chaz or whatever they learned in school, whether it's the Kodesh from the morning, chaz of the Gemara, chaz of the Mishnayos, or the chol in the afternoon, the math and the science and the Hebrew work. If you're there to help your children, and you're hungry for them to learn, and they're hungry to learn, then the upside is vast and infinite, and they'll be raised in an atmosphere that's much more ruchnius oriented than their counterparts in Chutz La'aretz, and much more angled toward growth and Yiras Shamayim and Ahavas Hashem and the love of Eretz Yisroel, it's really worth it.
What are some unique qualities specific to your school?
I'm Baruch Hashem connected with a few different schools. And the families that we've been describing, where there are those that want to go hook, line, and sink into the yeshivish, Haredi world. That's one model. And then these 4 or 5 schools I mentioned are more Anglo yeshivish. They do want to keep the secular studies, and they don't have a problem with the kids playing sports during the break or after school, organize games and stuff like that, just like they did in Chutz La'aretz. And all these schools are open to that, the secular studies, to the games, and so they don't want to make the center of a kid's life the sports stars, obviously, but playing organized sports, basketball, soccer, baseball, that's fine. That's the headspace of all these families.
We cater to what we call the Anglo Haredi Olim, we call them Yeshivish Olim, Anglo Haredim, I call us normal Haredim. There's our families who the fathers spent years learning yeshiva and some in kollel, and then afterwards went out to work. Whether it is they became professionals and are lawyers and doctors and architects and computer guys and real estate guys, or they became rebbeim, they're all out there working, supporting their family, and living the yeshivish atmosphere and lifestyle, and want to live in Eretz Yisrael, and want their sons to be raised in a warm, nurturing, caring environment where there's midos and derech eretz. That's very important to us, and they get the best of both worlds, both kodesh and chol. All the parents who came here is because they were raised in that way, and they got the best of both worlds. Their fathers, mothers got a kodesh and chol education. They want the sons to get the same thing. So we have families from America and from England and from Canada, American yeshivish families, British yeshivish families who came here and want to live in Eretz. So that's really who we're for, and that's what we have.
My dear partner for many years, Rav Levi Friedman, every Friday they have a baseball game in the park in Ayalon Park, and that's our crowd, as opposed to the Israeli yeshivish world. That's just not going to happen. So the people that are comfortable with so many things that they had abroad, they don't look at it as puzzle treif on the country, they're comfortable with it, they think it's nice, chinuchi, it's a good outlet. So the schools and the families, that's where they're all at. And each school has its own niche in terms of its own flavor. Some schools, myself personally, I'm a rabbi of Datilu Mishul, but I'm a rabbi, principal, or Rav Beit Sefer of Haredi schools, and families are fine and they're open to having that kind of exposure. Not that I'm giving over Tzioni ideas directly in the schools I'm involved in, but that people know where I am at and my hashkaf is in many areas, but they're fine with that. There's a certain broadness and open-mindedness to different shittas. So each school has its own beautiful niche and our own programs.
We do have the academic cheder. That's really, if you want that, then it's for you. That means your sons are going to be working both in Kodesh and in Chol. There's homework, there's quizzes, there's tests. They have to write essays in Hebrew and essays in English, and book reports in Hebrew and book reports in English. If that's what you got as a child, and you want your children to have that, it's great. If it's not important to you, then you should not do it. You should go to any other cheder where there's no homework and it's much more of a less academic expectations.
Each school has its own beautiful niche and our own programs, working with the kids, working with the Olim, but Bigadol, open to secular studies, open to sports and certain outlets, open to going back to the States, seeing the family and having that connection. And Baruch Hashem, it works.
Any final advice for those thinking about making Aliyah?
First of all, I definitely feel that you want to become educated in the Aliyah process. It means that definitely make a pilot trip. A lot of people call me from America and say, hey, what should I do? You should make a pilot trip. You should go see the community, pound the pavement, as they say. Go see the schools. Make an appointment to speak to the schools that you're looking in, that you're interested in. Speak to the principal, see the classrooms, speak to the kids, speak to other parents. Do research. Baruch Hashem, Ramat Beit Shemesh is incredible. And the amount of school choices it has, great options. Fit yourself into a school that you feel one with because you did the research. Also hashkafically, if you're used to a certain type of frumkeit, try as best as you can to fit yourself into that type of frumkeit in the school that you're going to. Don't have chas v'shalom an inconsistency or some sort of contradiction between the hashkafa that you're going to have in your home to the school, the cheder you're going to send to. Try to match up as close as you can. Nothing's perfect, but try to match up hashkafically with the cheder that you're going to send to. If you have a certain atmosphere in your home, if there is a certain set of priorities that you're going to have, make sure that matches your son's and daughter's school as best as you can. Don't try to, Aliyah is hard enough. Don't also try to move hashkafically during your Aliyah, because it usually doesn't work. Meaning you're a certain way hashkafically, be that way in Eretz Yisroel. Be proud of it. Be that way in Eretz Yisroel again. Don't make a move in Aliyah and also try to move to the right or to the left hashkafically, because that's not who you are. Stay the same and find the school that matches and you feel one with their hashkafa. Do that research. Come, do a pilot trip, speak to people, speak to the representatives of each school, find the community that fits you. I also want to say this. Also understand the amount of Israeli that you want to be. Some people, they want to become, for me, I know that I want my children to be well-balanced, well-mannered, happy, fulfilled, B'nai Torah who love to learn and love to daven and love chesed and love coming to shul and look forward to Shabbos and love being at a Shabbos meal and love a geshmak and love a kumzitz and love a simchas beis shoeva and want to be at an oneg or a tish and want to be part of a great class and have a great group of friends. You notice how I didn't say I want them to become Israeli. First, we want them to become B'nai Torah who love to learn and love to daven and love chesed and want to have good midos and derech eretz. Becoming Israeli is part of that process, but don't put it in front of the other more important, in my opinion, factors that make them into well-rounded B'nai Torah. So you want to see how much you want to be integration into the Israeli society at all costs, or smooth transition, smooth landing, and they will definitely become Israeli at the end of the day. But first and most important is happiness in Torah, and happiness in davening, happiness in school, and midos, etc., etc. I look forward to meeting with you. I look forward to welcoming you when you come. I'd love to show you around. We do have something very special to offer here in Darchei Noam, Ramat Beit Shemesh, and I do feel that with the proper guidance and the proper attitude, you will have continued siyata d'shmaya, and you will love the fact that you moved to Eretz Yisroel, and you will love the fact that your children flourished here, and you will look back upon this conversation and say, that was the moment when we decided, and it helped us push us through our Aliyah, and we're looking forward to celebrating many simchas and b'suras tovas here in Eretz Yisroel.
The way I see it, Hashem has invited us 3,000 years ago at Har Sinai, made it clear the centrality of Eretz Yisroel. This is where we belong. To me, it's quite clear. He sent another invitation in 1948. It is quite clear he sent another invitation in 1967. And in my humble opinion, he's sending an invitation every single day to be here. Simple pshat in the tefillah is, Hashem, we hope that during the Messianic era, during Mashiach, we're here. And the pshat is the Nazir, a student of Rav Kook gave over. He said, Hashem, when you return, 7.1 million Jews are here. The fertility of the land is amazing. It was barren. Mark Twain, 1867, said there's nothing doing here. I can't even find cactuses except for every few hours. Forget about fruits and vegetables and grass. And anyone looks around, the signs of redemption, of ingathering the exiles, the fruit, the fertility of the land, it's all here in front of our eyes. Gemara Sanhedrin Sadiches talks about this. These are the signs of the redemption. Hashem, let my eyes perceive that you, Hashem, have returned home with the Jewish people, and you're making the land sprout. Is everything perfect here? No. It's all part of the Gula process. We have challenges. Sometimes we make mistakes, and then we move forward again. So my tefillah for all of my brothers and sisters abroad, as they see what's going on here, that this Eretz Yisroel is the place to be. We have challenges, but Hashem wanted us to be. Invitation after invitation. Kol dodi dofek, he is knocking. Everyone should hear the knock and come here. There's some challenges here for sure, but this is the place. And the reward is so, so great. Not just in Olam Haba, but in Olam Hazeh as well. The nachas here, the growth, the spirituality, it's something unique and special. I wish everyone bracha and hatzlacha, they should make it home.
Thank you for watching, and I hope this video provided you with some helpful information. As always, please like, subscribe, and share our videos with others. And if you value the work we do here at Homebound and would like to help, please consider donating so that we can continue doing this holy work of bringing all of Klal Yisroel back to the Holy Land. To donate or to contact us, you can follow the link in the description below or visit our website at homeboundisrael.com.